Hello, thanks for joining. I'm Michelle Hilton, Director of Health Outcomes at DeLorean AI. I'm also a nurse and an informaticist, and today I want to talk to you about two things that might seem completely different: the nursing process and predictive AI. I was surprised to find how closely these two processes align. AI actually strengthens our nursing process framework, and today I want to show you how our two processes connect and why that connection may help us move healthcare from reactive care towards truly proactive closed-loop care. There's a few things that I think we all agree on. We understand prevention is better than treatment, and I think we'd all rather identify a risk before a crisis occurs. So the challenge isn't in our agreement, it's in the execution. And for most of healthcare's history, we lacked a reliable mechanism to see into the future or anticipate these future events. Today, AI gives us the ability to identify patterns that could indicate elevated risk before that risk becomes clinically obvious. And the real value here is created when AI predictions can be aligned with and integrated into clinical practice. Every profession has foundational principles that guide how the work is performed. For nursing, it's the nursing process. In data science, one of the tools is the predictive modeling lifecycle. Now, as I work more closely with nursing and data science, I understand that we're both trying to solve the same problem from different perspectives. And this realization led me to develop a framework I call the 5 conditions for aligning predictive AI with the nursing process. Each role has specific things that they need to do to align with the 5 conditions, as you'll see here. Let's see visually what this alignment looks like using the 5 conditions. While technology is driving the need for this framework, we shouldn't get lost in focusing on the tech. The trickier challenge is creating alignment across people, processes, workflows, and outcomes. The reason these 5 conditions matter is because they create a shared language between clinicians and data scientists. Where nurses think about patient care, data scientists think about prediction quality. This creates a shared language. Let's look at a familiar clinical scenario. You have a cardiac patient that's arriving to clinic with a prediction for fluid overload in the next 4 weeks. You'll recognize this slide as our nursing process. I'm not going to go over it in total because you recognize this. Next, let's examine the same situation from the perspective of a data scientist. Where we're looking at one patient, a data scientist is evaluating thousands of patients and millions of data points. Before their life cycle even begins, a data scientist must have a firm understanding of the problem they're trying to solve and what should be predicted. They have to assess the quality and the completeness of the data, identify patterns and associated with the outcomes, train their predictive models, generate risk scores, and then deliver those predictions to the care team. So just like us nurses gather information before we make decisions, predictive models have to understand the historical relationships before they generate predictions. So both disciplines are trying to answer the same question: what's happening now, what is likely to happen next, and what should we do about it? This is where the relationship between nursing process and predictive AI becomes most apparent. You can see here how visually each stage of the nursing process corresponds to a step in the AI life cycle. Although these processes align remarkably well, each role brings unique considerations to the decision-making process. AI contributes things like risk scores and confidence levels. Nurses contribute our clinical experience, patient context, preferences, ethics, and feasibility. This is where the DIKW model becomes important: data, information, knowledge, and wisdom. AI excels at transforming data into information. Nurses inform that information into action through knowledge, judgment, and ultimately the wisdom of their experience. The goal is not to replace human decision-making, but to strengthen it. The nursing process and predictive AI lifecycle have steps that converge at the implementation and prediction stages of their respective processes. This is where the optimal workflow integration that we touched on earlier becomes critical. Let's expand this step and look at it more closely. This diagram represents the workflow and what I consider to be the most important point in the entire framework: the human-AI decision interface, where the human and the machine come together, where AI-generated predictions become clinically relevant. Now, the model has completed its role by identifying risk, generating recommendations, and delivering predictions. The clinician needs to review those insights, apply their knowledge via critical thinking, consider any patient-specific circumstances, and determine the most appropriate course of action based on the wisdom of their experience. The key distinction is that AI informs the decision, but it does not make the decision. This is augmentation, not automation. So let's close the loop now. One of the biggest challenges we've always had in healthcare is closing that loop between our interventions and our outcomes. We know what we did, but did it have an impact? Closed loop care creates a two-sided continuous learning cycle. Predictions are generated, actions are taken, outcomes are measured by both nursing and data scientists, and results are evaluated, and those learnings are incorporated into both continuous learning and model evolution. This allows both clinicians and the predictive models to improve over time. We understand that traditional care is reactive. Problems identified, and intervention follows. DeLorean AI's closed-loop care disrupts that sequence. Risk is identified before the event occurs, early action is taken, outcomes are influenced, and that impact is measured. The difference is not that AI is involved. The difference is that predictive AI gives us the opportunity to intervene before deterioration becomes obvious. Instead of reacting to events, we can begin anticipating them. I believe predictive AI will become another tool in the clinician's toolbox. The future of care is going to be increasingly collaborative, and nurses will interact with technology and its developers in ways we previously couldn't imagine. We'll be combining human judgment with machine-generated information, continuously learning from outcomes, and creating greater accountability for the decisions we make. Nurses and organizations that adopt this approach early are going to be better positioned to deliver proactive, personalized patient care. Thanks for spending this time with me. My hope is that you leave with a new perspective on predictive AI, not as a replacement for nursing judgment, but as a tool that naturally aligns with the nursing process and extends our ability to identify risks, support decision-making, and improve outcomes. The future of healthcare will not be defined by nurses alone or by AI alone. It's going to be defined by how effectively we bring the two together. Thank you.